Advisor believes that predictive modeling can be a great complement to interactive visualization to help business people understand what really matters in their data. The thing is, a business person or any person can explore maybe 3, 5, or 10 factors visually and understand what makes one group different than another, explore outliers and so forth. But beyond that, it's really, really hard. So predictive modeling gives that business person the ability to screen through far more factors and determine what makes a difference and what's causal, what's important. And we believe the two work together. So let's take a look using the same customer example we've used in some of the other video tutorials. Here we're looking at roughly 10,000 customers. They total $500 million. Here's a list of them all. We've run a campaign. Looks like 984 of the customers, or 10.2%, have responded positively to the campaign. The rest have not. So the question is, what makes a difference? What determines whether somebody responds positively to this campaign or not? Because we're going to target this campaign to grow people's customers' revenue base. So if I select the yes responders, I can now visually explore against the entire population what makes those customers different than the rest. On a scatter plot of low to high revenue and low to high margin, I can see here's a customer that's fairly high margin and medium revenue that responded yes. I see there's a cluster down in here. It's hard to see a discernible pattern. On the industry, I do see that there's more blue, and the brush-up will tell me that 28% of my East Coast revenues come from people who responded to this campaign. Looks like the West is second with 6%, so there definitely seems to be a skew by region. I see that visually. I can see in manufacturing, the selection, the color here, manufacturing is 16% of all the revenue from manufacturing. More of an alignment there. Looks like also real estate. Looks like finance and insurance is a much lower response. We have another page here with a chart called the Parabox, which lets you look at this across more dimensions. The colored here is, again, the target, the people who responded yes to the campaign. The gray is everybody else, those that didn't respond to the campaign. I can see just by the size of the color relative to the gray, much more skewed towards the east than the west, followed by the Midwest. Nevada, New Mexico, New York. Manufacturing, I can see real estate. I can sort of visually see this. I can see customer segment B far more than the other customer segments. This is my selection. I can see margin, not so much. The colored box plot is pretty much in alignment with the gray. It's a pretty much representative of the overall population. Revenue, a little bit lower, responded to my target. Employees, a little bit lower. This is giving me a feel, but it's hard. There's many more dimensions in this data set. So now let's look at how we use predictive modeling to get a deeper understanding. Go to the task view, bring up a predictive modeling panel, and we put complex modeling in a form where it's a simple point-and-click interface. So to build a model, I click New Model. I'm going to call it something. I'm going to call it Campaign Responders. I only have one customer table in here. I can either do a regression forecast of a number. We would do this if we were trying to forecast revenue or something, but here it's a set membership, so I'm going to grab new field from selected. That's what's called a classification model, and it's looking at what is different about the people who are in the target versus those who are not in the target. There's a whole bunch of fields that are in this table. There's a lot more than we just saw visually. We realize that some of these are not, this is the key, you're not going to use that in the model and so forth. So we're going to then mine across all of these. I click Train Model. I'm running a set of complex models behind the scene. It will complete in just a few more seconds here, and it will give me an indication of how these factors align towards this target. We'll also create a scoring metric that'll let me score the rest of the population and see who else might be likely to respond to that kind of a campaign. So concordance number, or an R-squared if it was a regression, is high, so it's a strong model. I could have done something with p-value, but that's a more advanced option. I can set, whether what I exclude on prediction and so forth. So I can do different things with the modeling. We'll just leave a simple model here. Here are my outputs. States matter the most. Here's the group that had high positive influence with a response. Kansas City looks like it came strong. Real estate, they have this platinum credit card. We didn't see that visually. This CD24. So there's a set of things here that make a big difference. Some are actually negative. If they have these things, they're negative, and this is just part of the math. So then it also created, an equation and wrote it into the project. It scored everybody on a score of from 0 to 1. It then binned those scores in, so the 4 are the group that are most likely to respond. and it's my target is selected. So it predicted 490. 437 of my target are already there, but there's 60 or whatever that is, 53 people who are not in the target who are expected to have a response strongly. We could go in and identify who they were. This is the next bin. This is the lower bin. There's a whole bunch that are not expected to respond to the campaign, and as you can see, very few of the ones with the response are in this group. So I've created this model, which is written an equation in which I could then explore the outcome against all the other factors in here. Just another view of the output. It's something called a heat map, where we're trying to take as a map all of the factors that went into that model and color strongly green the ones that have a positive influence and red the ones that have a negative influence. So it's just another view of the chart on the other page, but it quickly shows some of the states. There's industries. Some of these are negative but smaller influence. So that's a good example of how we picked a target. We're trying to understand who this campaign was attracting. We looked at it visually. We got some of this. We didn't get all of it. We ran a model. We found out a bunch of other things that mattered, like some of these products in here, whether they had and so forth. And created a scoring bin, and we could go, and if we took this a little further and discover who the other 53 people are. There's a bigger group in this bin. It looks like another 130 who are aligned but haven't had the behavior. We could find them and maybe export that list and take a campaign against them. So again, the goal here is to create simple tools that complement visual discovery with robust predictive analytics so that a business person can understand data and take action on it.